every morning with drive. Being on the grind, know I had to survive. We had to win. Started from the dirt and the rubble. I had to be the needle that was popping your bubble.
Hello and welcome into the Rookie Prospect Profile Series, a Zilla Fantasy Elite production. Today we're going to be looking at tight end Tanner McLachlan within the tight end machine learning models. Can he go from a 6th round draft pick into fantasy stardom, starting in our lineups each and every week? Our machine learning models hold the answers. Don't miss out on the insights for their verdict. Tanner McLachlan was drafted in the 6th round, pick 194 overall by the Cincinnati Bengals. He's actually drafted in the 6th round, pick 51 overall of the Canadian Football League draft as well. He is a Canadian American football player, so that's why he was drafted there. He played college football for the Southern Utah Thunderbirds and Arizona Wildcats. That's where he comes out of. He's 6'5", 244 pounds. Ran a 4.61 40-yard dash, which is pretty solid, giving him a speed score of 108.9, which isn't too bad. But other than that, pretty unimpressive profile, 14.2 college dominator rating, not particularly athletic, short arms, not very agile compared to other tight end counterparts. So how is he going to do in the models? Let's jump into year one. And about as expected for a 6th round tight end draft pick, we're hovering around the 2 to 2.5 fantasy point per game range for mean and median for Tanner McLachlan within his first season, maxing out at 6.39. Those ranks are hovering around the 9th and 10th best in the class for year one. Let's go take a peek at who his historical comps would be hovering in those particular ranges in their first season. All right, we got a whole slug of tight ends in between 2.0 and 2.3 fantasy points per game in their rookie season. I'm just going to list them all here. Vance McDonald, Nick Casa, Ben Broniker, James Mitchell, Tyler Higbee, Nick Vannett, Connor Hayward, Dominique Daphne, Deion Sims, Andrew Beck, Josh Weil, Zach Sudfeld, Troy Nicholas, Trevon Wesco, and Henry Krieger Kobel. Whoever that is. Never heard that name before, but he is in the database as a historical comp for this guy. So let's take a peek at that maximum output, 6.39. If he happens to realize his potential, he's playing for Cincinnati, and they do have Mike Gesicki there, but if he gets injured and he gets some playing time and maybe all those wide receivers also get injured, what are we looking in store for? Well, these tight ends in their first season were in between 5.9 and 6.4 fantasy points per game. David Njoku, Austin Seferian-Jenkins, Joseph Faria, Foster Moreau, Brevin Jordan, Daniel Bellinger, Ricky Seals-Jones, Tyler Eifert, and Michael Rivera. If we bump it up to 6.5, we also get Jace Amaro and Dallas Goedert in their first seasons in the NFL. So that's roughly the range you're looking at if he has all of the cards fall in his direction. All right, now that we saw him hovering around the 2 fantasy points per game range, let's jump into year 2. And we can see a little jump up here. He's now hovering in the 3 to 3 1/3 fantasy points per game range. He's got a long tailing edge there from basically the 75th percentile on in terms of, hey, anything beyond 4 fantasy points per game, he's got 25% of his outcomes coming in that range, but they are spread out pretty evenly across the board, all the way out to 9.85 for a maximum, which is the 7th best in the class. 90th percentile, actually the 5th best in the class. So we do see a little jump up here. Mean and median at 8th and 9th best in the class, hovering right around 3 fantasy points per game though. Let's go look at that 3 fantasy points per game range. What does that look like for him? These are the tight ends that were between 2.8 and 3.2 fantasy points per game in their rookie season. Trey Burton, Ryan Griffin, Daniel Bellinger, Chris Gregg, Tommy Tremble, Marquise Gray, the converted quarterback, David Morgan, Joseph Faria once again, and Adam Shaheen there at 3.2. So that's what we're looking for in terms of his median outcome here. And we do see a lot of outcomes there at the 25th percentile, which is 2.01 fantasy points per game. That's Tyler Conklin and Eric Sauerbert level, Caden Smith, Cole Turner, Stone Smart, all in that particular range in their second season. Now getting into that maximum output at 9.85, that's pretty solid. be looking at the last 11 draft classes, it would be inside the top 15. Crockett Gilmore hit 9.8 in his second season. Dallas Goedert 9.6. David Njoku 9.6. Eric Ebron 9.3. Pat Freiermuth 9.26. And then Richard Rodgers 9.9. Noah Fant 9.95. Jake Ferguson 10.42. Hunter Henry 10.6. So not a bad list of people there, but as you would expect in the top 15 of the last 11 draft classes, you get some better names up there, and he would have to have everything fall his way. Dipping into year 3, we do see another slight bump up for him in terms of the mean and median at 3.5 and 3.44 mean and median, respectively. That's ranked 10th in this particular class, and his maximum output at 9.79 is ranked 10th as well. So even though he goes up, we see a lot of other tight ends kind of leapfrog him in terms of their mean and median for year 3. Let's go look at his historical comps of the last 11 draft classes, who is hitting that 3.5 fantasy point per game range. We have all of these tight ends in between 3.2 and 3.8 fantasy points per game. Nick Boyle, Jack Doyle, Luke Wilson, Jeremy Sprinkle, Harrison Bryant, Brevin Jordan, Seth the Valve, Tommy Tremble, Austin Seferian-Jenkins. Pretty terrible list there. Austin Seferian-Jenkins had some fantasy relevance, but really that's a pretty terrible list of players that you're not going to want to have on your rosters. Getting into that maximum output, 9.79, that would be just inside the top 20 of the last 11 draft classes anyway, and it's the 10th best in this particular draft class for projections. There's just a few tight ends here, 5 of them in between 9.3 and 10.5 fantasy points per game. Hayden Hurst at 9.32, Jacob Hollister, Noah Fant at 9.94, Austin Hooper 10.1, Dallas Goedert 10.58. So that's if all of the cards fall in his direction and he can hit this maximum output in year 3. And those are the types of players he's looking at. All right, let's go into year 4. Do we see any sort of breakout for him? And not really. We do see him increase year over year every single year from year 1 to 2 to 2 to 3 and from 3 to 4, but really staying in the bottom quartile of this particular draft class in terms of predictions. Let's go look at the historical comps for his mean and median, which are just above 4 now, ranked 8th and 7th respectively. All of these tight ends are in between 4 and 4.5 fantasy points per game during their 3rd season in the league. Levine Toilolo, Luke Wilson, David Njoku, Durham Smythe, Jacob Hollister, Matt Lacoste, Michael Rivera, Ben Broniker, Josh Hill, Nick O'Leary. We do see quite a few common names within there that we've seen in the other years, and that's really what it's predicting him to be. Probably somebody that you can just leave on the waivers forever. Let's look at that 10.10. What does that look like in terms of the last 11 draft classes? It is the 11th best in this class, so that's out of 12 tight ends, one of the worst, but not the worst. This particular maximum output is in between Cole Kmet and Mike Gesicki's 4th seasons, which are the 13th and 14th best in the last 11 draft classes. Just below them, OJ Howard 9.4, Jonnu Smith hit 9.35, Jack Doyle 9.1, and Dawson Knox 9.5. A little bit above Cole Kmet, which is a pretty big jump in between him and Mike Gesicki. 9.71 for Mike Gesicki, 10.65 for Cole Kmet. Then we have Dallas Goedert at 11, Tyler Higbee at 11.5, and a jump up to the top 10 here. Dalton Schultz hitting 12.28 in his 4th season. And there we have it. That's all 4 seasons for Tanner McLachlan here. Doesn't seem like somebody you're going to want on your fantasy rosters. Just leave him off of there. Probably not even worth putting on your taxi squad. Just pick up a running back that's going to get some opportunities and reap the profits for when that guy has his chance. All right, that's going to do it for today's rookie prospect profile on Tanner McLachlan. This is presented by Zilla Fantasy Elite. Thanks for tuning in. Bye.